Let's talk about TMJ. What is TMJ?
So I love this question. TMJ is your temporomandibular joint. So when people say I have TMJ, I kind of laugh because it's like saying I have knee, I have elbow. I say, yeah, you do, and I do too. We have two. So, but usually what people mean when they say I have TMJs, it means they're having some kind of problems with their TMJ. And so technically the term would be TMD, temporomandibular joint disorder. So that's a very non-specific diagnosis. It basically just means a problem with the jaw. Okay. And there's a bunch of different specific diagnoses that you can have. But for most people, it's going to be some component of pain, maybe some joint noises, clicking, popping, things like that.
What about, like, clenching at night? That's a dysfunction as well, right? Because I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people have that one.
Yeah, we see that a lot. It can be problematic for a few reasons. One, people might get headaches or other issues when they wake up. You just don't feel good. You have that tension from that. But it can break the teeth. We see a lot of cracking of the teeth when people are clenching and grinding. And then you might even wear your teeth down. So you just, shave off the top slowly over time. Once you do that, we can't really repair or replace that part of the tooth. So that's an issue. But it, might also lead to some temporomandibular joint dysfunction or be a side effect of that. It's a chicken or the egg.
Why do we see that more women have this than men?
I've thought about that a lot. I think it's really interesting. I assume it has to be at least partially hormonal.
Mhm.
It seems to show up a lot in like teenage adolescent girls going through puberty kind of timeline. And it seems to be worse for women during those more hormonal stages. And then as you get older, it tends to go away. So I think there's probably a lot of different factors to it, but I think there must be that as well. I also think there's a little bit of misogyny in medicine or dentistry when we're talking about TMJ. I remember in residency, it was just like the feared consult, like, oh no, the TMJ patient. And it was always, almost always a woman. And like those crazy TMJ patients, those crazy TMJ, they're so
That's every
crazy. They're always crazy, right? Well, I started to realize, and everyone else has probably realized too, but all of those things were like the fibromyalgia that mostly happens for women. We can't explain it, so they're crazy. And the TMJ patients, we can't really explain it. It's mostly in women, and they're crazy. And the vertigo patients, there's a pattern, and TMJ is definitely that way. And so in my practice, I kind of dread the TMJ patient a little bit, partially just because I spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah,
I give them like 45 minutes to an hour of my time. I don't get paid extra to do that, but for me, so much of that is just hearing them,
yeah.
hearing what they've been going through, letting them explain how this has affected their life, and then show them. I draw pictures, I show them the anatomy, and I explain the process of what's going on. And I think there's something so validating that, like, there's not anything wrong
You.
with
Yeah,
you.
with your brain.
There's an anatomical issue with your jaw, and there are luckily things most of the time conservative management is going to take care of it. It's rarely a surgical problem, and we can get you through this, but you have a real problem, and it's just the anatomy. It's not you being crazy. And I think for me, it's worth spending that extra time, and most of them don't come back. Maybe they're mad at me because I didn't help them enough or something, but I think it's because they felt like, okay, I could see and we have some strategies, and I might be the first person that ever really listened to them and took their problems seriously.
So what causes it?
Most people, when they have TMJ problems, it has to do with the disc in the jaw. So just like other parts of our body where we have cartilage, cushioning, and discs, we do in our jaw as well. And I think our jaw, the orthopedic surgeons might be mad at me, but I think our jaw joint is probably the most complex joint in our body for a couple of reasons. Our elbow is like a hinge, and our hip is like a ball in a socket, and they kind of just do one kind of movement, but our jaw does a couple different things. The first thing is it's a rotational movement. So to open the first couple centimeters, it's kind of like turning a doorknob, and then it has to glide down like a ski jump. And so to do both of those, I think that's kind of a tricky movement. The other thing is it's attached to another joint. So I can't
Mhm.
think of anywhere else in our body if I'm missing something. So it's attached to another joint. We're constantly using it all day, swallowing, talking, breathing, and then we're putting huge forces and we're loading that joint really hard. So I think a lot of it, the dysfunction comes from just wear and tear, inflammation. But what happens for most people, and it's a lot of people, about 30% of people have that clicking and popping of their jaw. And that's because that disc that's on there gets out of position, it moves anteriorly, and then it can do that hinge movement just fine. With the gliding, there's a speed bump there. So you have to click that back into place to be able to open or to close, and that's why you get that clicking sound. So if that degenerates and becomes worse and doesn't come back into position, then that's when you really start having problems. Your jaw might lock close and things like that, and that might require surgery. But thankfully, most of us, including myself, who are clicking and popping, it might cause a little inflammation or muscles might get kind of off track. It's kind of like getting a Charlie horse in your face because things are inflamed and the muscles are spasming. And so if we can get that under control, most of the time we can kind of take care of that with some simple strategies. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, my husband complains because when I'm eating steak, he can hear it popping across the table." That's just common for a lot of people, and that's why it's called anterior disc displacement.
Interesting. So I always thought it was like a muscular, like a tension. Is there also some physiology that's a tension?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the disc anatomy, the internal derangement of the joint is causing that clicking and popping. And if you're just doing that and you're not having symptoms, that
It
might
is what
just
it
be
is.
normal for
Yeah.
you. But again, the problem is the analogy I like to use is that if I hurt my right knee and so I was on crutches,
Mhm.
what's going to happen to the left side of my body? Like maybe my left hip starts hurting or because we're compensating. So I think that's what happens. Your jaw and your muscles, everything's trying to get it in a more comfortable position. And in doing that, it puts things out of alignment. Your bite and your teeth might not be lining up correctly. The muscles are being kind of stretched. Inflammation is getting in the area. And then you get what's called myofascial pain. So usually if we can get that myofascial pain under control with anti-inflammatories, maybe changing your diet, soft diet, maybe some steroids or muscle relaxants or even antidepressants. There's kind of a big list of things that we can do. If we can maybe get you a mouth guard if you're clenching so that we're not putting pressure and extra, stress on the jaw, then we can relieve that muscle. And so that's usually where the dysfunction for most people is coming is from the muscles. So you're right about that.
And then is there a role for Botox?
Yes. So that is kind of a newer thing that we're doing. It could be really nice because, again, if you're doing that clenching and grinding, if you're getting those spasms, then that's one way to kind of knock out your ability to really do that at night or to do that. I had one patient that she was clenching and grinding so much it was a compulsion. She couldn't stop. And even though she knew she was doing it like 24/7, she just couldn't stop. And it was causing her so much pain, and her masseters were just bulging. So we were able to do Botox for a couple of years, and her face changed and her life changed. And if someone was just getting out of the habit,
Yeah.
and
Then she could stop.
yeah, and after a couple years, we didn't have to do it anymore because her muscles didn't remember to keep doing that compulsion. So it can be helpful. Unfortunately, since it's off-label use for Botox, it can be expensive because insurance is often going to say that, it's elective and they don't want to do it. But some people will meet criteria for that to be paid for.
Thank you so much. This has been so educational. Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram or TikTok as Dr. Erin Sheffield.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you.